planning. We spend our lives planning. We plan weddings, we plan for retirement. When we have kids, then we start planning slumber parties and sleepovers and carpools and vacations, of course, family vacations. We plan for their futures by starting college funds because we want our kids to grow up and be successful so they can eventually take over all that planning of their lives all by themselves. But the planning radically changes when you have a child diagnosed with autism. In the United States, the odds of having a child with autism are 1 in 110. And it's been in the news a lot lately. We hear it all the time. There's lots of PSAs that'll tell you that. My child has a form of autism called Asperger's syndrome, which is considered to be high-functioning autism. As my son gets older, I wonder what his life will look like after high school. My son lacks some of the basic planning skills that all of us have that he will need to be fully independent. But despite that, he wants to grow up, and he wants to have a home of his own, and he wants to have a job being a professional NASCAR driver. He's a teenage boy. But most of all, he desperately wants to be independent like his big sister. Thus, I must plan for a child with autism because my son isn't able to plan his own future yet. It's difficult to tell just how many adults there are with autism in the United States. Many high-functioning autistics are undiagnosed, but one thing is certain, they all started out as little kids. There are more kids being diagnosed with autism now than just a few years ago. So what will happen to all these kids when they grow up? What if they cannot plan for their own future? As a society, we must plan for people with autism. We must plan for the tsunami of high-functioning autistics who don't qualify for state developmental disability support services. About 85 to 90% of these young adults will not be ready to fully function on their own after high school. Yet they have a strong desire to work towards the goal of independence. This group of young adults will often continue to live with their parents and siblings because there are no other semi-independent living options available. No options available. We've just arrived at the intersection of planning for autism and planned communities. Now imagine for a moment that this group of young adults with autism had an alternative to living with mom and dad. The alternative would look like modern-day planned communities, like Stapleton in Denver, Rancho Viejo and Santa Fe, New Mexico, and even Fallbrook here in Lincoln. Using the principles of urban design to specifically address the needs of semi-independent to fully independent autistics, it would be possible for people with high-functioning autism to live life on their own terms. First slide. Housing in the planned community will look the same as what is currently seen. A variety of single-family dwellings, townhomes, maybe a few condos here and there. There would be offices and business space, schools, libraries, stores, shopping, everything you would need in a community. So everything is self-contained in one area. Now, familiar places are very important to a person with autism because change breeds anxiety. Knowing your neighborhood is something that reduces your anxiety level. You know where you're going, you know how to get there, and when a person is less anxious, it's much easier to learn social skills and planning skills and everything you need to live independently. It is easier to work in a relaxed, familiar community when there isn't a morning commute that brings your anxiety level to the point where you cannot function. Having a variety of work opportunities close by also gives a young autistic person the opportunity to work close to home. Once again, this is an anxiety-reducing strategy that can lead to successful employment and independent living. The planned community would need to incorporate natural features as part of the design. Green space. Now, this is a waterfall actually from Colorado. Having green space tends to calm people down. My own son, when he gets anxious, even when he's at school, will go over to the window if there is one in his classroom, and he'll look out the window till he's calmed down, and then he'll come back to his seat. That's a strategy that they allow him to have so he can have some control. But anybody can benefit from these natural, wide-open spaces in a planned community. They're not just for specific people. Anybody can benefit. It's a nice, relaxing, welcoming space. The planned community also needs a network of pathways that are clearly marked to promote recreation and movement through the community. Wider bike paths and sidewalks make it easier for movement through a community, and it also gives extra room to people with autism who may need extra personal space to move around a community. My son is one who doesn't like to be packed in close with a lot of people. Sitting in this room right now would be very difficult for him. He'd do it, as long as he'd go look out the window every now and again. Another thing is easy to read directional signs. Not only benefits people who live in the community so they know where they're going, but if there's a visitor who's directionally challenged, it can also be a big benefit so they don't get lost. The planned community will need accessible public transportation or a shuttle service. Not every need can be met in one community. There's always something missing. We know this from living in Nebraska. You don't have everything you need in your small town. So having access to public transportation is very important. This is key because many people with high-functioning autism can't ride a bike and aren't able to drive. They just can't process all that information at once that's needed to attend when you're driving and riding a bike. So having public transportation and the shuttle service is vital. But it's also a necessary evil for a person with autism, because if you've ever been on a bus or a train recently, it's packed full of people. It's tight in there, it smells, it's noisy, it's terrible. Well, we get off the train at our stop, we walk outside, oh, fresh air, yay, and we shake it off and we move on. The person with autism runs off the bus or train, gets outside, and will just stand there and process and process. It could be hours before they finally get back to normal, to a balanced state where they can move on. But it's still needed. So a lot of people learn how to deal with it over time. The last piece of the planned community is creating places where people can come together. Yes, this is a picture of Central Park that we took when we were in New York. And if you look close, there's a wedding going on. We didn't realize that until after we took the picture. Having places where people can come together, an open green, playgrounds, picnic benches, pavilions, restaurants with open space so people can walk by and visit with their neighbors as they're there. Just anything to bring people together. It's a great way to practice social skills and a great way to maybe make a friend, which is very, very difficult for people with autism. And did I mention this community would be open to everyone? Anybody can live there. But there's a catch. If you're going to live in the autism neighborhood, you have to follow the covenants of the neighborhood. And we all know every planned community and subdivision has covenants that you have to follow. This community will have a civil society covenant. If you're going to live here, work here, be a paramedic, be a firefighter, be an educator, anything, you've got to agree to the covenant of civil society. You've got to attend educational sessions on autism and what it means to have autism, how to work with people with autism, and basically, if you're going to be there, we got to follow the tenets or we don't want you there. Some of you may be thinking, who would want to live in a place like this? You know, do I want to live in a place that has people with autism in it? I would. I would love to live in a place that has people that are looking to grow and become better people and fit into society. And I'd like to have people like that be able to challenge me to grow as well. As you look around the room today, there's probably one or two people here that have high-functioning autism, and you probably don't even know. But as Temple Grandin pointed out in her TED Talk, Silicon Valley is full of people with high-functioning autism and Asperger's. In fact, I believe she refers to them all as geeks. But, you know, people haven't moved out of Silicon Valley because of it. People are still moving in. So it is possible to plan for autism and create planned communities designed with the purpose of supporting people with high-functioning autism. Neighbors helping neighbors is a natural way to support social skill learning. It also makes it possible for autistics to become independent and live independently. This is not a plan for group homes. This is a plan for independent living in a community designed by autism. Thank you.